Good evening. Welcome to the October 2023 Brooklyn Borough Board meeting. I am Gregory Lewis, chairing the meeting designated by the Brooklyn Borough President according to September 2022 order, along with my colleague Carol Ann Church, the Director of Community Boards. We're also here with Joseph Frizzell from the Office of Brooklyn Borough President. This meeting is being recorded to comply with the Open Meetings Law. It does not appear that we have a quorum, so in that situation, what we're going to do is we're going to present the possibility for those present to receive two presentations. The proposed agenda that we cannot adopt officially because we don't have a quorum mentions one. There is one other presentation that we are aware of. So in the absence of a quorum and simply to receive information, we'll invite those present, those members of the Brooklyn Borough Board present, to indicate whether they have an objection to our proceeding with a presentation, first from the cannabis enforcement updates from Katie Shane of Local 338. Do any of the Borough Board members have an objection with such a presentation? On consensus, we invite Katie Shane from Local 338, as well as Esther Bigler, the Labor and Employment Law Program for the New York City Government and Community Relations, to present on cannabis enforcement, or to provide cannabis enforcement updates. Please proceed. Behind the podium.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight and giving us the opportunity to speak to you a little bit today. My name is Katie. I'm the Deputy Political Director at Local 338, RWDSU UFCW. We are the Cannabis Workers Union in New York. And I'm really honored to be here tonight to speak to you all a little bit about what's going on, especially since applications are opening up tomorrow. But I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague Esther Bigler, who works for the Cannabis Workforce Initiative. They do really great educational programming, and she's going to speak a little bit about how did we get here, what's going on, and what do you need to know as leaders in your community, especially as licensees are going to be coming to your community boards to open in your community. So the information you need to know to make well-informed decisions about that. So I will pass it over to Esther, and at the Q&A section, if there's any questions for me, happy to answer those.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, everybody. I'm not that tall. Maybe I should get a box, so I'll be taller. I'm really happy to be here tonight. As a Brooklynite and someone who lives in CB14, I am thrilled to be here. So the Cannabis Workforce Initiative is something that Cornell ILR and the Workforce Development Institute put together because we knew once MRTA was passed, the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act was passed by the Assembly, the Senate, and signed by the governor, that the world was going to change. And so my hope tonight, I only have 15 minutes. Usually when I do an introduction to the act, I take an hour. But I have 15 minutes, so this is by definition going to be a summary. But I'm very happy, and Katie's very happy, to answer any questions that you might have about the act that we're able to answer. We are an educational program, not an enforcement program. And so enforcement is through the Office of Cannabis Management, and I'll talk about that for a few minutes. So our job at the Cannabis Workforce Initiative is to make the reality of what MRTA is, which is a social justice piece of legislation, a reality. And so we work there to provide education, quality workforce development education. They say there's going to be 50,000 jobs in this industry. So we need qualified workers to be able to take advantage of that, as well as making sure that workers, as well as the entrepreneurs and the licensees in this industry, understand what a fair and equitable workplace looks like, and people's rights are enforced. We're funded totally by the New York State Legislature. No one pays any money to come to any of our programs. We are totally free for every program that we give throughout New York City and throughout New York State. We partner with schools, community groups, nonprofit organizations. I was supposed to be in Rochester on Saturday teaching at the Rochester Central Library. Unfortunately, wasn't able to do that, but I am pleased to be here, and that's what we do. We provide education across New York State. We have a certificate program. It is a certificate in career exploration and worker rights. I also am the chair of the New York State Apprenticeship Council, and one of the things I learned there is that people would call me up and they'd say, I want to be a carpenter, I want to be a plumber, I want to be an iron worker. And I'd say, do you know what that job entails? Do you know what it does? And they'd say no. And so what we decided at CWI is to provide the training so people will know, do they want to work in processing? Do they want to be in retail? Do they want to be in cultivation? So that's part of what we teach. The rest of what we teach about the plant and what the plant can do is also worker rights. We want no one to ever be exploited and to not know what their absolute rights are. We make presentations to employers, employees, and job seekers. Our role, as we see it, is to build a fair and equitable and regulated cannabis industry. That's what we're all about. So I want to give you a quick history about how we got to where we are. This is not going to be a complete history. I'm not going to take you back to biblical times where they knew that cannabis had medicinal properties. In this country, the big push to criminalize cannabis came in 1937. And actually, Fiorello LaGuardia, when he was mayor, believed that cannabis should be legalized, and he was shall we say, overthrown in his viewpoint by the federal government. The real problem started with this man, Richard Nixon, in the 70s. Richard Nixon was confronted with a few things, and he decided to make two groups the scapegoats for the problems. One, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, providing that there should not be discrimination in employment. The following year, the Voting Rights Act was passed, giving people of color the right to vote. This was not in Nixon's plan. At the same time, the war in Vietnam was raging. And so he decided the way to protect his presidency, and I would like to remind you, this is the Watergate president who had to leave office in shame. He decided the way to win and the way to stay in office was to go after the war protesters who were in the streets, calling people who were protesting the war constitutional rights, lefties who were all high on cannabis. And in addition, people of color were, of course, always high on cannabis. So something had to be done. It had to be made illegal. In 1970, at his urging, the Controlled Substances Act was passed, making cannabis a Schedule I substance, which says it has no redeeming social, medical value at all, and made it a felony to use it and to sell it, so people could go to jail who really wanted equal rights and wanted to participate in our democracy. Just quickly, what this incarceration did, making it illegal, and the states followed. In 1970, we had 357,292 people in prison. In 2015, we have 7 million people under supervision in this country. That's what this war on drugs gave us. He created the Drug Enforcement Agency, and it was very clear that there was a racial basis to what he was doing. So what we have is the federal and state governments deciding they're going to criminalize this, even though they knew They knew it had medicinal properties, and it was not a gateway drug, and it wasn't cocaine. But they put it in the same category as cocaine and heroin and as a gateway drug. This meant that black males were 5 to 7 times more likely to be convicted than a white male for the very same offense. So what happened in our state is MRTA. The whole idea of MRTA, the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, and regulation, big R, the purpose of that was to try to undo everything that's happened in our state. But it remains a controlled substance on the federal level, and please remember that. The purpose is to provide a socially equitable industry, to open up economic opportunities for people who have a cannabis criminal record. Most licenses in this state and in other states say you can't get a license to do something if indeed you have a criminal record. They say moral turpitude. I don't know what that means, but it means people with a criminal record can't get a license. Now, under MRTA, this industry is opened up to people who in fact have been involved with cannabis and have a criminal record. It's a chance for a job and a good job. So what does MRTA do? First of all, what's very clear is it legalizes marijuana use throughout the state of New York. We have 37 states around the country that have legalized either medical and or recreational use. So now in this state we have medical and we have recreational use. It also opens up, as I just said, opportunities for people who have a criminal record who have not been able to get jobs before. And the goal of our state is to have 50% of these adult use licenses, IU call it adult use, not recreational, but adult use, 50% are supposed to go to social equity licensees. Now, who's that? MBEs, WBEs, people who've been involved in the criminal legal system. It also includes service-injured vets and distressed farmers. All of this is overseen by the Office of Cannabis Management. OCM has set out a way to really regulate the cultivation of this plant, its distribution, as well as its sale. And we are really tonight at a very interesting place because tomorrow OCM is opening up the portal for 5 different licenses for people to apply for licenses. Those will be in cultivation, processing, distribution, retail, and micro business. So what does the impact of MRTA have on employment? That's my area. I do employment. First of all, the expungement of criminal records. How does that happen? It happens automatically. A computer is gone through, and it's supposed to be done. Computer has gone through and has put expunged. It doesn't erase it. It puts in big letters expunged on the records of everybody who has a cannabis misdemeanor. Not a felony, I point out, just a misdemeanor. It also requires that in order to get a license, the proposed licensee, okay, I'm used to walking around, sorry. You can take the mic off. Ah, okay. Thank you. The proposed licensee is supposed to have a labor peace agreement. Now, what is that? In a labor peace agreement, the employer agrees not to interfere with employees' free choice. Think about Walmart, think about Amazon, think about Starbucks. In Amazon, for example, when you went to the bathroom, there were big flyers saying that the union was going to mean you're going to lose your job. There would be meetings in the boss's office telling you how terrible the union is. People would be fired for even talking about the union. So people cannot make a fair decision about what they want when they're scared, when they think their livelihood is in danger. In addition, the union agrees not to strike or boycott for recognition. So there's a mutual agreement between the labor union and between the employer and the labor union that they are going to have a neutral situation where people have the right to choose. So that if Katie is here from RWDSU 338, she can talk about the benefits of a union contract. I will tell you, so I make full disclosure, I was once a union lawyer, and I can tell you as a child growing up in a union family, having a good wage, having health benefits, having a pension, those make a big difference in terms of your ability to function in the world. And that comes with a union collective bargaining agreement. In addition, New York State law, the labor law, was amended. And what does it do? It says that cannabis is like any other consumable product. Liquor, cigarettes, etc. It also says that employers cannot discriminate against someone who uses cannabis. That's a big deal. You cannot be drug tested for the use of cannabis because it stays in your system for up to 30 days. So it's like any other legal, you can smoke, you can drink, etc. However, not on the job. From the time you walk in to that place of business till the time you leave, you cannot use cannabis. It's not like having a beer at lunch. It's not like standing outside the building and smoking a cigarette at lunch. It's very, very different. The only caveat here is the transportation industry, MTA, Long Island Railroad, etc. Trucking, anything which is also licensed by the Department of Transportation, and of course, if you work for the federal government. Obviously, since the federal government has not recognized cannabis as a legal substance, at least not yet. So the career opportunities here are numerous, and to me that's a really important thing to keep in mind. It is every level, from starting at the very bottom to people who have transferable skills. Maybe you're an electrician. You can work in indoor cannabis because it's heavily used of electricity, for example. And there are diverse career paths. There's a chance for upward mobility. There's a chance for people to bring whatever skills and excitement they have to their jobs. And my hope is what we've seen in other industries, that people go on and they open their own businesses. So what happens? We see the development of generational wealth in the communities that have been so hurt by mass incarceration. So these are the kinds of jobs in a regulated cannabis industry that there are. Security, heavy security responsibilities. I was telling somebody earlier, my husband went into one of the stores to buy something to help him sleep. He's got gray hair, he uses a cane, and they said, "Excuse me, sir, I need to see that you're over 21. And he laughed. And we said, "We're really sorry. We cannot let you in here to buy anything unless you prove to us that you're over 21. It's not like Fresh Direct, where I put the little check mark in that says I'm over 21 and they deliver the bottle of wine. So he had to do that. Very serious about that. So security, tracking and testing, that gets a number. And that number stays with the plant with additional numbers added on throughout the entire process, including sale and including when it's disposed of. So you're going to need computer skills because all that is done on the computer. Health and safety. These are jobs which health and safety people are going to be employed to make sure that people are not in a situation where the job makes them sick. In addition, we have finance. Like every company, it needs bookkeepers, it needs finance people, it needs people who are able to keep the books. And waste disposal, sanitation, you name it. There are jobs touching the plant, and there are jobs which have to do with the auxiliary to the plant, including things like legal, accounting, packaging. So there's a myriad of jobs that are going to be coming out of this industry. So to us, the cannabis industry is really creating new jobs, new career paths, and new businesses. Our programs about career exploration and employer rights and responsibilities, we think is opening the door to people who didn't have a choice, who have a criminal record, or who are in situations where maybe they don't have the education they might want. They can find a place in our classes and then hopefully in an industry and move up. In addition, I said earlier, this is a chance to build generational wealth in the community. So somebody can buy a house and pass that on to their son or daughter. They can open a business and then their son and daughter can take over that business. That's what we're looking at in terms of this industry. So, in the end, I usually start my class by asking my students to tell me, what is a place where you want to work? This is what we're trying to build, a fair and equitable workplace where people can choose, if they want, to be part of a union, collective bargaining protection. You know, this is an employment at will state. You can be fired for a good reason, a bad reason, or any reason, as long as it's not an illegal reason. Employment at will. Not in a CBA. CBA says you can only be discharged for just cause, and there's a whole procedure to protect you called a grievance procedure. So these are the things that we're interested in. I'm not going to read them to you. These are the things that we're trying to create in the educational programs that we've put together. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, I love that question. The question she asked was, how does she get to see the whole presentation? There are several presentations. So we are going to be offering it on Zoom again. And so if we could make that available, Carol Ann, to people, and let people know in the community that those Zoom classes will be resuming. Absolutely. I'd love to have you join us. Any other questions? Yes, sir. I am saying if you become a cannabis employer, yes, that if people want to join the union, they can. You have to sign an LPA, which says you're going to be neutral. You're not going to threaten or coerce employees in their choice. Yes. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity to have spoken with you. And if you have any questions, we'll let everybody know about when the Zooms are going to be up. Okay, thank you. Oh. If you go to our website, cannabisworkforceinitiative.org, you'll find everything. Okay? In fact, it should be, if you have your phone with you, if you have your phone, you can take a picture and it'll take you right to our website. I'm sorry. Thank you. I said if you have your phone with you, you can immediately take a picture and be taken to our website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bigler. The other proposed presentation brought to our attention is a presentation by the Department of Education. Wants to do community partnerships, wants to sort of give a quick briefing to the Borough Board. This is Serge Leger. So does any member have a objection, if any member of the Borough Board have any objection to our allowing Mr. Leger to present? Hearing no objection, on consensus, Mr. Leger, the floor is yours.
So good evening, everybody. I don't have slides, so you just have to deal with my voice for today. Let me take this off, actually. So again, my name is Serge St. Ledger, Jr. I work for New York City Public Schools in the Office of Family and Community Engagement. And this is a newly formed position, actually, in the office as far as community partnerships. So I'm the Senior Director for Community Partnerships. And within the Office of Family and Community Engagement, there are 4 teams, one of which is Community Partnerships, which I lead. The other 3 teams are governance, and the governance team deals with all the CECs and all the parent leadership structures around public schools. The third is called Homeschool Partnerships. They train and work with superintendents and principals as it relates to their interaction with parents. And lastly is a parent mentorship team, and they deal with the parent coordinators in the same way as far as training and supporting the parent coordinators as it relates to their interaction with parents. So the reason I'm here with you tonight is to, number one, introduce that to you as far as this new arm of the Family and Community Engagement Office. And secondly, that I will be a consistent participant in these meetings moving forward, and as an additional outreach to the community as it relates to public schools, right? The Department of Education is a huge organization, as many of you know, and it can be unwieldy, right? So if there are concerns that you have, you can bring them to me. I mean, let me just tell everyone I do not have all the answers, okay? But I can certainly take questions back and concerns back and find out who is the right person in order to get the answers for you and bring them back to you, okay? So I will be an additional arm of communication between the general public and the Department of Education. So you have it here, it's recorded, so I can't take it back. But I look forward to being here on a more consistent basis and answering any questions and dealing with any concerns that you may have, okay? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leger. Mr. Leger, there's a question from Chairperson Camacho of Community Board 4.
Sure. Well, this is not the only thing I do. So there are many other things that I do. I engage with cultural institutions, private sector partners, city agencies, as far as better coordinating our services to support families. For example, we're meeting with a bunch of city agencies next week. So the Department of Probation, Parks, Administration for Children's Services, to talk about how we can better coordinate our services to better support families around the city, especially those families that are at a very vulnerable state. We're trying to better support them. So this is one of many things that I do. So it does not preclude you from using this, talking to the superintendent or bringing your concerns to the CECs. It does not. This is just an additional arm of communication between the public schools and the general public. So if you still want to engage with your superintendent, you're more than happy to. With your CEC, absolutely, with your PTA, et cetera. But I'm just here as an additional support for communication. Yes, ma'am. '52 Chambers Street, right behind City Hall. I have cards if people want them, so please don't all come at once, but I have cards, okay? Yes.
Chairperson Lomax.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sure, I have it right here. And I can leave them up here. Okay,
Thank you
so
very much, Mr.
help
Leger.
yourselves. Okay.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Leger? Hearing no other questions, thank you very much for this presentation. At this time, I'm going to ask my colleague, Ms. Church, to call the roll to determine whether we have a quorum so that we can proceed to any other business.
I will start with council members, because that's the sheet that's on top. Raxla, 33. Gutierrez, 34. Hudson, 35. Osei, 36. Nurse, 37. Aviles, 38. Hanif, 39. Joseph, 40. Mealy, 41. Barron, 42. Brannon, 43. Diego, 44. Louis, 45. So Daniel. Narcisse, 46. Kagan, 47. Vernicup, 48. And we go to the community boards. Community Board 1. If you are a designee for a community board, please give your name. CB1. CB2. CB3. CB4. CB5. CB6. CB7. CB8. CB9. CB10. CB11. CB12. CB13, they sent in apologies. CB14. CB15. CB16. CB16. CB17. CB18.
There being 16 Borough Board members present, there is no quorum, so we cannot proceed to any business items. Consistent with what we have done with the presentations, I would ask whether any Borough Board member present objects to receiving an update from Borough Hall. Is there any objection to receiving an update from Borough Hall? Hearing no objections, I'll proceed to give the updates. We want to convey appreciation to the over 170 community board members who logged on for the training that took place last week, the affordable housing training by HPD. Your participation, or the participation and the numerous questions from those who attended, made the session more valuable. I sort of, in the context of training, I wanted to also highlight that last week the Borough President met with the chairpersons of the community boards and sort of announced a policy going forward with Borough Hall's relationship with trainings. There will be a follow-up, or Borough Hall intends to have a conversation with the district managers. Until that conversation happens, we won't talk about what was discussed, but the chairpersons know what was discussed, and so it also will be conveyed to the district managers and then published, just to allow you to know that. The other update is tomorrow, the Brooklyn Borough President will have a press conference event here at, I believe, 10:30 in the morning in the courtroom to present the comprehensive plan for Brooklyn. The borough boards and the community boards have previously been briefed on this, and there were, of course, public engagement sessions. Existing conditions had been published. The full report was going to be published tomorrow, and sort of a presentation. So those are the two updates from Brooklyn Borough Hall. Do any members of the borough board who are present have an objection to other borough board members presenting any updates or information? Is there any objection to doing so from other borough board members opening up the floor for updates or information from Borough Board members. Hearing no objection, I'll now open the floor to other Borough Board members to present any updates or information they wish to communicate to the membership. Now, Chairperson Camacho.
In regards to what consists of quorum, meaning how many people on the roster to conduct the quorum. I thought a quorum was made by the people that are here present, plus one. I'm not too sure, I'm confused.
To the Chairperson Camacho has raised a parliamentary inquiry. The answer is, according to the Section 85 of the Charter, a quorum is a majority of the Borough Board. The Borough Board membership consists of the chairpersons of the community boards, of which there are 18, and representatives or their designees, as well as the council members for the council delegation in Brooklyn, of which there are 17, or their designees. That would make, 16. And the Borough Board is also chaired by the Office of Brooklyn Borough President. That adds 35 total members. The tally shows 16, making us 2 members short of a quorum. Any Borough Board members wish to provide any updates? Seeing no Borough Board member wanting to provide any updates, I'll sort of only remind you of the next standing meeting of the Borough Board. Based on the motion at the last meeting, the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 1st. That is Wednesday, November 1st, followed by Tuesday, December 5th, as the last meeting date in the calendar year 2023. Is there any Borough Board member who objects to adjourning the meeting? Hearing no objection, the motion to, the meeting adjourns on consensus. We are adjourned until the next Borough Board meeting scheduled for Wednesday, November 1st.